The emergency alarm screamed through the cargo freighter Prometheus Dawn as Rayan wrestled with the controls. Asteroid debris had torn through the ship's hull during what should have been a routine supply run to the outer colonies. Now, with engines failing and life support critical, he had no choice but to attempt a crash landing on the uncharted planet looming in his viewport. "Come on!" "Hold together," Rayan muttered, his knuckles white against the steering column. The planet's atmosphere grabbed the ship with violent turbulence. Shaking every bolt and rivet. The impact came like the fist of an angry god. Metal shrieked. Systems exploded in showers of sparks. Rayan's harness cut into his chest as the world spun into darkness. Consciousness returned slowly, accompanied by pain. Rayan's eyes fluttered open to an alien Sky 2 suns burning in shades of amber and violet. He tried to move, but his body protested with a symphony of aches. The crash seat had saved his life, though the ship around him was now little more than twisted wreckage. Then he heard voices. Soft, melodic, but undeniably not human, Rayan turned his pounding head and froze. Standing in a semicircle around the crash site were at least a dozen beings. They were humanoid, but distinctly alien, tall and graceful, with skin that shimmered like polished bronze in the double sunlight. Their eyes were larger than human eyes, colored in deep violets and blues. Most striking were the intricate bioluminescent patterns that traced across their skin like living tattoos. They were all female, or at least appeared to be by human standards. "Easy," Rayan said, raising his hand slowly in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. His translator implant was damaged, sparking uselessly behind his ear. "I mean no harm. My ship ... crashed." The nearest alien stepped forward. She was slightly taller than the others, with silver hair that seemed to move of its own accord and patterns on her skin that glowed a warm gold. When she spoke, her voice had a musical quality that the broken translator couldn't process. Rayan pointed to his chest. "Rayan, my name is Rayan." He repeated the gesture. "Human, from Earth." The alien tilted her head, studying him with an intensity that made him feel like a specimen under a microscope. Then she touched her own chest, and a word formed that his damaged implant caught in fragments. AI or ... "Era," Rayan repeated. And something like satisfaction crossed her features. Era turned to the others and spoke in flowing syllables. The group responded with what seemed like questions, concerns, curiosity. Rayan recognized the cadence of debate when he heard it, even in an alien language. Finally, Era made a decisive gesture, and two of the others moved forward. "Wait, I can walk?" Rayan started, but his legs had other ideas. As he tried to stand, pain lanced through his right ankle, and he would have fallen if the two aliens hadn't caught him with surprising gentleness. They were stronger than they looked, supporting his weight easily. Era led the group away from the crash site, into a forest of what Rayan could only describe as crystal trees. Their trunks were translucent, with cores that pulsed with soft light. The canopy above filtered the double sunlight into a dappled rainbow effect. It was beautiful and utterly alien. They walked for perhaps 20 minutes before the forest opened into a clearing. Rayan's jaw dropped. Before him stood a city that seemed grown rather than built, organic structures that spiraled upward like seashells, connected by bridges of living vine. Bioluminescence provided illumination even in the bright daylight, suggesting the structures would glow magnificently at night. The alien women, and Rayan could now see hundreds of them moving through the city, stopped their activities to stare at the newcomer. He felt the weight of countless alien eyes, assessing, curious, perhaps fearful. He was the intruder here, the unknown element in their world. Era led him to one of the larger structures, and into a chamber filled with what looked like medical equipment, though nothing Rayan recognized. She gestured for him to sit on a raised platform, and when he did, she began examining his injuries with careful precision, despite the language barrier. Era proved remarkably adept at communication through gesture and expression. She indicated his swollen ankle, made a concerned sound, then retrieved a device that hummed with soft blue light. When she held it over the injury, Rayan felt immediate relief, the pain fading to a dull throb. Then nothing. "Thank you," he said. knowing she wouldn't understand the words but hoping the gratitude showed in his voice. Over the following hours, Rayan learned that he had crashed on Thalaris, a planet with no record in human databases. The civilization here was advanced, perhaps more so than humanity in some ways, though they had taken a different technological path, one based on bioengineering and symbiosis with their planet rather than mechanical industrialization. He also learned, through patient pantomime and drawing in the dust, that Thalaris's population was overwhelmingly female. Males were rare, born perhaps once in 100 births, and lived separately in distant regions. The human concept of integrated societies seemed to fascinate and puzzle them equally. Era appointed herself his guide and guardian. She brought him strange fruits that tasted like nothing on Earth but were surprisingly delicious. She showed him their water systems, their energy generation, their agriculture, and slowly, painstakingly, they began to build a vocabulary between them. "Why help me?" Rayan asked on the third day, using the handful of Thalori words he'd learned combined with gestures. Era regarded him with those deep violet eyes. When she responded, her meaning was clear even through the language barrier: because you needed help. Because compassion is universal. Because we are not so different. Rayan looked around at the alien city, at the beings who had taken in a stranger from the stars without hesitation. He thought about the human tendency to fear the unknown, to respond to difference with suspicion. "Maybe we should be more like you," he said softly. Era didn't understand the words, but she smiled, a gesture that seemed to translate across species, and placed a hand on his shoulder. In that moment, Rayan understood the true meaning of humanity's place in the cosmos. They were not alone, not special, not superior. They were simply one voice in a chorus of civilizations, each with wisdom to share. His ship was destroyed, and rescue might take months. But standing there in an alien city, surrounded by beings who had shown him nothing but kindness, Rayan realized he had been given an extraordinary gift, the chance to truly see humanity from the outside, and perhaps to help his own species become worthy of the stars they sought to claim.